But my name is Jason Mathias. I'm an information technology specialist with EduTech. Also on with us from EduTech is Jill. And just to give you some information on what's going on is kind of the purpose of the meeting today. We're looking at starting a North Dakota chapter of the Computer Science Teachers Association for North Dakota, really with the primary goal of just being a resource for teachers around the state that are trying to bring computer science or cybersecurity stuff into their classroom in some way, shape, or form. As we're going through today, this can be very informal. If you've got something, feel free to speak up. Any questions you can ask in the chat portion of the Skype window, or you can send me a direct message during the call, or we can touch base again afterwards if you want to. But again, our goal is to start a North Dakota chapter of the CSTA. And one thing I want to make sure everybody knows of is EduTech, we're kind of starting this, but we don't want this to be an EduTech group. We kind of really want to get the ball rolling and things off the ground, and then really have this be a teacher group in North Dakota, and kind of the one place that you can go to if you are interested in trying to bring computer science into your classroom, or if you're trying to start a program in your school, that there's going to be a place to go for North Dakota teachers where they can find the resources that are going to help them be successful in their classrooms. And there's no better way to do that than to be able to reach out to other teachers in North Dakota. Our setup and our situation is going to be a little different than anywhere else. So we want to have a place where everybody can kind of collaborate and come up with what's going to be the best for our students. So the North Dakota chapter of the CSTA, some of the organizational things that we need to take care of to kind of get this off of the ground. We need to have another meeting where we'll establish a leadership team and vote for officers and things like that. We'll need to create some chapter bylaws just to kind of get an idea of how the organization is going to run. And most of that stuff, I think, is probably going to happen inside of Microsoft Teams. So I have created a Microsoft team that is just called the CSTA-North Dakota. And I'll actually share my screen with you so you can see my Teams window and just get an idea of what this is going to look like. All right, so hopefully you're able to see my Microsoft Teams window come up onto your screen right now. If you're joining us by phone, hopefully you're at least a little familiar with what Microsoft Teams is. If you registered for either one of our organizational meetings today, or if you filled out the initial form that was included in the EduTech emails that went along with the information about this meeting, I've already added you to this team. Is there anybody that's out there that is not familiar at all in any way, shape, or form with Microsoft Teams? So hopefully you at least have a little understanding of what's happening in Teams. But in the conversation area, which is the main landing page for when you get into a team, you can kind of see, any conversations that are going on with the team members. And one of the hopes is, this can be an area where if you've got a question about something that you're doing in your classroom, or you want help setting something up, or you're just looking for resources, it's this place where we can share, and then everybody that's a part of the team has access to it. This doesn't just necessarily need to be for computer science teachers. It can be for any of your teachers in your building that want to bring something into their classroom. Maybe it's just one activity that's going to involve computer science or cybersecurity in some way, shape, or form. They're more than welcome to be a part of this. But inside of the Teams window, under the Files section, I've added a couple of documents inside of here. First, the first document that's listed are just the computer science and cybersecurity standards that North Dakota has developed. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with those and have looked at them already, but I've included them here just so it's an easy spot to go to find them if you want to check out what's in there. The second document is the chapter application that we would fill out to get North Dakota their own chapter for the CSTA. The first part of it just talks a little bit about some of the things that we need And it's really just an organizational setup. We need some officers to have some leadership positions. And then we need at least 10 members in North Dakota to join our North Dakota chapter before we can get it off the ground and running. And the only requirement with those 10 is that they need to be from different organizations. So we can't have like 6 teachers from one school and 4 teachers from another school, and that becomes our 10 members. It needs to be a little bit more diverse than that. But luckily, in North Dakota, the way that we're set up, we should have no problem reaching that 10 number. And then also in that document, it goes a little bit into the bylaws of what a CSTA chapter is and how it should work. There's nothing really that's major in it. And there isn't really a whole lot of extra requirements that we put on top of a North Dakota CSTA chapter. There are some things about having professional development opportunities, but with EduTech being involved in this, CSTA North Dakota can tie in to a lot of what EduTech is already doing, or we could potentially get into some other conferences that are happening to kind of fulfill that professional development requirement. And then the last document there is the chapter success rubric, which just talks a little bit about some of the things or the expectations that the national CSTA would have of the local chapter. And again, a lot of that stuff is stuff that we're already doing, or would be hopefully doing, and sharing resources and being able to collaborate with teachers around North Dakota. And then also in the team, on the top of the CSTA team, I pinned the interest survey for the North Dakota CSTA that went out with the original organizational meeting. If you've filled out that form, that's super. Really, there's just a couple of questions on there that we're looking to get. Number one is a preferred email address for you. So if you have an email that you use that's not your K-12 as your primary, if you are a school that is a Google school and you have your own Google domain set up and you prefer to use that, or if you're at a school that uses a different Office 365 tenant that's not part of K-12, we want to make sure that we have the most accurate information. So when we send out some information or try to get feedback, that we have a good contact list and some correct email addresses so we can make that communication happen as seamlessly as possible. And then also in that form is just the little bit of interest of whether or not you would be interested in having an officer position or leadership position inside of the CSTA. I'll actually share out the link for that form inside of the chat in this call. So if you would like to fill out that form, you can just click on the link that's in this chat and you can have access to that as well. But right now, I guess, does anybody have questions or comments or things that we can kind of clear up and make sure we're getting everybody on the same page? Okay, now really our next steps after today.
Jason, somebody's typing a question.
Somebody's typing?
Yep.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Unfortunately, I have to leave soon. I would love to hear the rest of the conversation. You said you're recording it. Will you share a link through email or some other means so I can take a listen to it later this evening?
Yeah, I'll share the link to the recording to everybody that's registered here. And then if you have other people that you know of that want the information, let me know and we can make that video available to them as well.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, really our next steps after today, we want to push this information out to as many teachers in North Dakota as we can. Again, it doesn't just have to be teachers that are involved in computer science. It maybe is a math teacher that's trying to bring a little bit of computer science stuff into their classroom, or a science teacher that's doing this. Again, it doesn't need to be computer science specific. We want to be able to reach out and be a resource for as many people as possible. So spread the word. The CSTA North Dakota Microsoft team is a public team. So if you go to join or create team, you can search for it and find it. You guys are also members of the team, so you can request access for somebody else to join. If you know somebody else that wants to be a part of this, they can reach out to me and I can add them as members. We'll be talking about this at NDATL next week, which will hopefully be a great target audience for us. But then after that, we need to come up with our next meeting where we're going to start to elect some officers and kind of establish those leadership people that are going to help bring this to the point where we can actually turn this into an official CSTA chapter. There'll be a meeting sometime in November. I don't know exactly when that's going to be yet. One piece of input I would kind of like to hear back from you guys. I know with the school day, it's tough to maybe get out of classes. Most of you are teaching your full day and you're not dedicated tech people, or you have just a little bit of time and a prep hour to meet. But is there a time of the day that will work great for you guys, like trying to schedule something in on a lunch hour or before school or after school or later on in the evenings after school obligations are done? Do you guys have any feedback on that? If not, that's okay too. Probably what I'll do is I'll put together some potential dates and times, and I will probably send those to you guys in some sort of form or poll so we can figure out what our best option is going to be when we're going to be able to hit the most amount of people that want to be involved in this. Most of our communications, like I mentioned before, are probably going to happen inside of Microsoft Teams, inside of that CSTA North Dakota team, and the general conversations. We can share out some information, and you guys can start using that right now to talk about anything that you want, or if you guys have suggestions for what our next step should be or how we should continue forward with our North Dakota chapter. Feel free to add stuff inside of here. I will probably also make the video recordings of this meeting available inside of the team. So if you want to refer back to it later, that's another place where you can go. Jill, do you have stuff that I'm missing or forgetting to talk about that I mentioned earlier today?
I can't think of anything. CSTA's website, they do have some resources, but for the most part, we're hoping that the North Dakota chapter can just be a really good, resource idea and bounce ideas back and forth specific for computer science. So that's really what this is all about, is getting something started so that we do have resources and people we can go to directly for computer science curriculum and ideas and what we can do for our teachers and helping them.
Yeah, inside of the chat, I have included the website for the national CSTA, so you can go and kind of check that out. In order to be a part of the North Dakota chapter, you would have to be also a member of the national CSTA. That is free to join. There are no real requirements for you there. They do have a paid subscription if you want to get a little bit more, and I think their paid subscription is like $50 for the year, but you don't need to do that. You can join for free and then become part of the North Dakota chapter. I believe there are something like 58 North Dakota members of the national CSTA, so hopefully we can get those people involved in our North Dakota chapter, and again, just be a great resource. With the governor's K-20W initiative, there's the big push to bring computer science and cybersecurity into the classrooms, and we want to have an area where people can go to find out the best stuff that they can be using. Inside of that team, EduTech will post the things that we have coming up. This is another great way for us to get information to you guys about upcoming trainings that we have or partnerships that we're involved in with groups like NYSERC or Girls Who Code or Girls Go Cyber Start. We want to have an area where we can get that information to people that are actually going to benefit from it and use it the most. But right now, I guess, does anybody have questions for me or for the group? Things to talk about, concerns that you have, ideas or suggestions? just looking at the comments from you guys and from the people that were on the 1 o'clock meeting, evenings are probably going to be the best for our next meeting. Again, look for it sometime in November. Edutech will probably push that information out to teachers in North Dakota, but you can also find that information will be inside of that CSTA North Dakota team. Does anybody else have something that we can talk about or share with the group, or concerns that you might have, things that you need to know before we get it off today? All right, if there are no questions, thanks again for joining us. I don't want to keep you very long. I just want to give you a little bit of info about what's going on and where we're looking for the next step. So be on the lookout for our next meeting sometime in November, and that will probably include trying to develop our candidates or people that are going to be in those leadership positions. Please take a minute to fill out the Microsoft form. I've included that link inside of the chat conversation for this meeting. It's also pinned on the top of the CSTA North Dakota team. And that way we can have some contact info from you, and then, to find out if you would potentially be interested in one of those leadership positions that are available. Again, just kind of be on the lookout for information from us on when our next meeting is going to happen. I'll stick around on the call for a while if you guys have other questions or if you want to chat about something. Please feel free to stay on and let me know, or you can send me an instant message or an email, and I'll get back to you outside of the meeting. But thanks again for joining.